Okay, so now we made it to the next section. I'm going to combine these next four sections together in one particular video because they all are dealing with inputs. And so I'm just going to make the flow go straight through as so we don't break the video. So if you're new to this channel and you would like to follow along with the curriculum, the link is in the description. Let's get into it. Text inputs. As you know from interacting with web forms, it's possible to use more than simple text inputs. There are additional input types, each with different uses. Many of these elements are input tags with a different type value. However, some have entirely different tag names. The next few sections contain lists of input types. To start, here are three types of text inputs. These inputs types can contain text of any value. We have the type text, the type text area, and password. And you know the text can be the username. It has to have this name. Remember, you have to have that name attribute. The text area, notice we just call it text area and instead of input, and then you still have to have that name, submission, description, and notice it has a opening and closing tag. And then you have the password input, and then we're passing that type as password. Here are the descriptions. These are the demos. These can all still be styled differently. You can still style them. Form inputs will not look exactly the same in all browsers. However, the inputs should function the same way. Use caniuse.com if there is ever a question of browser support for a certain feature. We've already gone over this, but click on that link and again type in "can I use" to check if this is going to be which browser that particular feature is it supported and how it's supported. Now here's the example. We have the form, we have an action, we have a handler. Of course, we didn't create this handler. Launch code gave us this handler. And then we have the method post. So that means you can create your own. And so here we have two labels with inputs nested in. One is a text type, the other one is a password type. Then we have the names attributes with code name, and the other one is code word. Makes sense with password. Then here we have a text area that we want to text to put a whole like paragraphs and everything in. And normally you're going to use these type of forms for when you're going to create, let's say for instance, something for your customer or end user where they can add their own story or own blog. You may have a blog that you allow people to post to, or better yet, you are creating this for the team, your marketing team, and it's like a cPanel where they're able to go into the back office and create and type in their descriptions, as opposed to you having to hard code them or maybe going out and pulling it in from a third-party library. They can create them on the fly. This is what it looks like. So once you hit the submit value and we send the report, this is, you saw code name, captain, code word, which is the password, and mission description. You type this inside of the text area, and then you hit send report, and this will get submitted. The code name, captain, and remember there's the plus sign, code word Avengers, and Captain Danvers. And then description, test flight. Remember there was a space there, so I added that plus sign. And so notice that the text area value does not include new lines, even though it was typed that way. So make sure you pay attention to all these little small nuances. Okay, check your understanding. Let's go to the next one. Here we're going to talk about specialized text inputs. For these text inputs, the browsers will validate and provide feedback to the user based on rules for the declared type. So here we have a date type, an email type, the number type. And so Pay attention to these. You have the input. Remember, you need that attribute, name attribute, in order to submit it. The type is date, and then you have the email, the type email, and then number. Here are the descriptions. So the description, the browser validates the value is a valid date format. Some browsers provide a date picker. So this is what it looks like in your browser when you see this form. You have the mm/dd/YYYY 4Ys. This is familiar to you. You've used this. And then we have to be able to validate the email. Notice I'm saying validate. This right here validates this particular information. This is what these types are doing. Validate. And validate the value number format is validating. But remember now, input fields, everything is converted to a string. So in your code, you have to make sure you are making sure that everything is validated correctly. So here we have the form, and then we have all the information. Here's the labels, the inputs, and we have the button. And then this is what it will look like in the browser. When you hit send report, it's going to do what? It's going to send this information. Now, again, understand how the input stuff. Remember, when we input things, it's going to default to a string. So you make sure in your code when you are receiving this information that is being converted correctly. But it's still validated that, okay, it is a number, the type number, but again, it's going to, when you send it through, it's going to convert it to a string when it goes back to your database. So if you want it to be a number, you got to make sure you convert it. All right, so that's the end of this section. Let's go to checkbox input. A checkbox input represents a box to check. Checkbox inputs can be used by themselves or in groups. Checkbox inputs are best used with labels. So here we go. We have the input, and in order for it to be a checkbox, you got to give it the checkbox type. And this is what it's going to look like right here. It's just a little small box, and when you click it, there we go. It's letting you know that it's been clicked. And now an event handler will be added to this, right? So once it's clicked, this is maybe information you want to send to your database that they click this. So understand how this works. It's more than just clicking it just so it highlights it. No, it has to have some functionality. While you're using a checkbox, you're collecting information with this checkbox. So here's an example. One checkbox, no value attribute is set, so the default value of on is submitted. So is it crew? And then we have a type checkbox name crew ready. So inside of your query, this is what it's going to say: crew ready, which is what we call the key, and on is the value. But because we didn't set anything, like it said, there was no value set, it is defaulted to on. Now, multiple checkbox inputs, all with different name attributes. So you hear, it's just like if you had a checklist of something, you may use a checkbox that I'm checking off that I completed this task. So that's what they're good for as well. So here you're checking off different things: name, cook, running, movies. And then if cooking and movies are checked, then this is what's going to show up in the query. It's going to have a key value pair. But if the movies if the running is not checked, it's not going to show up, because that's what's going to validate it. Example: multiple checkbox inputs with the same name attribute. So we have the same name attributes, but the values are different. So when you go and you check one, it's going to ingredients is the key, butter and ingredients equals rice. Now remember, when you put that and in, it's a different key value pair. So you got two key values, and you got two keys and two values. And so when each one of them is checked, it's going to give you the key, which is the name, and the value, which is whatever you put in as the value. Again, check your understanding. Let's go to the next one. Radio inputs. Radio inputs allow a user to pick one option out of a grouping of options. Radio inputs with the same name are grouped Only one radio input in a group can be chosen at a time. The value attribute of the chosen radio input will be submitted. Radio inputs are best used with labels. So again, your type is radio, your name is crew ready, the value is yes. And so a small circle that allows selecting one of the multiple values used in a group of two. So you're either going to have yes or no, true or false. It's something that you're going to check. So when you're on a form, you may ask a person, are you legally able to work in the United States? And the radio button either is yes or no, or you're checking yes or no. You can only pick one. And so this is what it will look like inside of your code. And so right here you have three labels, and each one of the inputs have type radio. The attribute or the name attribute is going to be flight rating, all still the same key names, but the values are different. So when you see it inside of your browser or in the form, it's going to give you the flight rating. Was it rough, bumpy, or smooth? You're going to pick one, and then you send the report. Okay, let's check our understanding. Let's go do one more. Select input. Select inputs create a clickable menu that displays options and allows the user to select one. The available options are defined by option tags inside of the select, open and close and select tag. This is something you definitely need to pay up because you're going to use options, and you need to understand how this works because it's going to look a little bit different when you get into React, and you need to understand the rules and the principles of this because you're going to have to create your applications and your forms. They may need options, which will be a drop down, and the person has an option to pick in one of them. So understand how this works because you're going to use this attribute, or you're going to use this element in JSX. Tags have a value attribute which define the value submitted if the option is selected. The text inside the option text it's optional. You can put the option text in here. That's why we have open and closing tags here. Is displayed in the select menu. So here's the text type select, and then here's the syntax. Now let's look at it here in the code. So you're going to have what we call a select element. It's wrapped inside. A label is wrapped around the whole thing. And then we're including empty value select one option. So inside that select, you're going to follow it with the options. The options have values empty 1, 2, and 3. And then so we had this one empty because we said select one. And then you're going to be able to select option 1, option 2, option 3. This is something good for you to really practice because you're going to need this for your assignment. And so here, option value. So we have to select in facility select. We have the name facility. We have that attribute. So we're selecting one, but now here we are the name facility. So this is the attribute letting us know this is going to be submitted. This is the operations. This is the facility. Inside each one, you have 3 different options. And each one of these options, you have the value, Johnson, and then you put the name inside of it, the text inside of the string, the same here and the same here. This is all a part of this particular section. And then we have the button. All of this is connected because it's all wrapped inside this one form. So when you come over and click over it, it's going to show you, well, this one is not doing because it's not drop down. So if you say select one, if I hit this drop down, it's going to give me all 3 of these all these options. And then for the operations, so I'll pick one, and then it'll populate. And then facilities, the same thing. It's going to be a drop down, and it's going to show me all of the options, and I'm going to pick one, and it's going to populate. Then I hit send report, and then that's what gets saved. Okay, check your understanding. Okay, I know we went over all 4 of those sections in one video because they were all dealing with the input types. And it's so important that you understand, especially on the select, because you're going to use that quite a bit because you're going to, when you're building your form. So understand every piece of how to create a form, because this, you want to do your best to master this, because this is going to be utilized a lot in your career. Learn how to style forms. It's going to take you a long way. So remember, the more you do, the more you improve. I'll see you in the next section.